My favorite part of my job is product development because I can take a frustration or a problem and create a solution that has value. Now, when I got my first router table, it was a chintzy little $80 used number I got off Craigslist, came with a router, so you can imagine the quality. And that got me by, but then I built that large full-size router table that you've seen on my YouTube channel. We also have plans for it, and that was amazing. That solved all the problems. It was big, it was robust, it was powerful. It had a 3-horsepower router, and it had all the bells and whistles. But that's like a real cost-prohibitive, non-portable, non-easy-to-create thing, and you have to buy a second router if you want a handheld version. Then I developed this product with Tamar, this 6-in-1 universal router jig. It comes with all these accessories, and it worked amazing. One of the things we talked about in the launch video was that you could turn it over and use it as a makeshift router table. You put it in your vise, but that lacks a lot of things too. Like it doesn't have a big table, you can't adjust it while it's in the vise, there's no way to add dust collection, so it's kind of also had its limitations. So then I wanted to create a small, compact router table that had all the bells and whistles and functionality of that large one, but had portability. And one other feature I really wanted to have was that you could still use your handheld router. And with this jig as a router plate, all you have is 2 bolts holding it in, these 2 handles. So you can take these handles off, take it out, put them back on, and in 15 seconds you go from a router table to a handheld device. Today, instead of doing a build video, I wanted to talk you through the product development process. How do we go from an idea to prototyping to final design, and then how do we refine the manufacturing process so that we can get it to you in an easy to assemble package so that you can get to work and get something amazing. Now, this is the first in a line that we're calling Katz-Moses flat packs. That will be a series of flat pack jigs that you can assemble at home that will be ready to go to work. So you don't have to waste time making jigs and you can make furniture. So let's head into my office. I'm gonna show you how we 3D model these. Now I wanna tell this story from 2 perspectives, right? One, mine, how we went from this idea to a retail ready product on our website, and also from somebody who may wanna learn about product development. Maybe you have an idea that you like, but you don't know how to get from point A to the end result. So first step is to draw your idea. Now, in the beginning, you have an idea, maybe you sketch it, but you need to get it in the computer because if you're gonna manufacture it, you need to either be able to relay that information to your CNC machine or to another firm that's gonna manufacture a prototype or a finished product for you. And so you need to model it. And if you don't know how to do it, that's fine. You can hire somebody to do that. You can get somebody very inexpensively off a website like Fiverr, or you can go more expensive and hire an engineering firm. But I've never spent more than like $1,200 with an engineering firm, and they usually have a lot of great feedback. And that's an important part of this because you get what I like to call genius blindness, right? You get an idea and you're like, this is genius, but you can't see the flaws. It's like trying to edit your own term paper, right? Like after you just finished it, you can't see the spelling errors and the grammar. Same thing with an idea like this. When I had the idea and we were done with this, it was time to talk to somebody. And I went to Mike, who draws our plans for us. He's really, really good at it, has a great YouTube channel, which I'll link down below, and said, Mike, what do you think about this idea? I'm a little concerned about the racking. He's like, oh, absolutely. If you were to put too much pressure on that when you were cutting a big dado or groove, that thing's just gonna collapse. So we said, okay, what else should we do? So our next iteration in the computer, now mind you, we have not built anything yet, is this with a solid back. We rounded the corners of the top, we made the top bigger, and we added slots for T-track. Then from there, Mike came up with a great idea. I wish I could take credit for it, for bit storage. So that's where the holes for all those bits came. The point is, ideas need to be collaborative, right? Like, you can only get so far by yourself, and this is why we design in the computer, so we can look at it before we waste any material, and this is why we create prototypes. Now, this is where our roads start to diverge in the process a little bit. If you're somebody who is trying to manufacture something on your own and you have an idea that you want to create, you can either do this one of 2 ways. One, you're going to create it yourself. Here is my original vector files. This is a 2.5D CAM program, computer assisted manufacturing. When you're drawing it, it's called computer assisted design. I'm creating toolpaths for my CNC. These were our original files. You can see they look much different than the final version. But if you were somebody who was going to have somebody else make your prototype, like an engineering firm, you would really want to create some sort of prototype in your shop. Maybe it's just out of wood, even if it's like an aluminum or steel product. You would make it out of wood and you can start to kind of look at it and play with it before you get a final prototype from an engineering firm, because that's where it starts to get expensive. Time on the machine and materials and all those things can really add up. But if you prototype in your shop beforehand, like we're gonna do ourselves, you can suss out a lot more of the problems before you get to a final version. So let's head over to the bench and let me show you all my prototypes and all the little things we changed over the course and how we came up with the final version for manufacturing. If you haven't already, it's time to define the core values of what you're trying to create. For us, it was 3 things. 1, it had to have all the functionality of a large router table in a compact form. 2, it had to be really strong, so maybe it could balance the rear end of a dually F350. It also had to have a ton of value, and I take a lot of pride on the products we bring to market, what we charge for them. I don't try and gouge, I don't mark them up 10x. In fact, Tamar's router jig and this router table are both on our website for less than you can buy the materials for. With those principles in mind, we started prototyping. We identified a couple key issues right away. First of all, it was like ease of assembly. I had it so that you had to drill all the holes, and my thought was you could put some glue on there, throw some finish nails in there, and then drill holes and shoot screws. But real quick, we were like, why don't we put the holes in there for you? And at this point, we still didn't know if we were going to develop a product or do plans, so we were going to just put those holes in the template. You can see it doesn't have handles yet. We'll get there. And the worst problem was that when we put it together, there's so much sag in this router. There's nothing supporting it. The shelves where the bolts screw into were just way too short, and that was a big problem. So we came up with a couple solutions for that. Cast acrylic comes in different thicknesses, right? Like we order 0.25, it's like 6.25 millimeters thick cast acrylic, but it's heated up and pushed through a die. So there's a tolerance to that. It's like plus or minus 0.02, which means every router plate we ship out may be a tiny bit different in thickness, which doesn't matter for any other purpose except for a router table, right? Because you need to be able to level it perfectly flat with your top. So we came up with 2 solutions. That is holes, and I found these really cool nylon leveling pins. They're 1/4-20, they're adjusted with an Allen key, and then we created these tabs here. Now, I still was holding out hope that we could use the accessory pieces as a fence, but I was starting to lose faith a little bit. So I had made those tabs the same height as the dado for this fence piece. That didn't work because then you would have to shove a leveling pin way, way high. So I made them bigger, and this is when we realized this wasn't gonna work because we couldn't close it all the way up. So that was out. And I realized this is no longer gonna be build plans, this is gonna have to be a product. Nobody can buy 8 leveling pins, right? You gotta buy a pack of 25. Nobody can buy the 6 bolts that come with this and the 6 knobs. They gotta come in a pack of 10 or 20, or you buy them individually and they're like $3 a piece. So the costs start to add up for the end consumer if you make this build plans, and people aren't gonna wanna build it. So it's time to come up with a final version. Our first try was this one where we got rid of one of the leveling holes, made it a little bit easier to level, and then finally we got rid of those fence slots. And this was our final top. And this was really exciting because we had a great version we really liked, and it was time to choose materials. So now I'm starting to feel like we're pretty close to a final product. And if you're in this phase with an engineering firm and possibly an outside manufacturer, this is where we're choosing materials. You may be choosing anodization colors, things like that, but for us, it was a choice between 4 options. White and black melamine with an MDF core, plywood with a laminate on top, it was like a 6-layer ply, and then the birch ply that we're using for the sides. Now, they all have their pros and cons, but you want a router table to be smooth and slick on top. Birch didn't have that, but someone could finish it. I didn't think that would be like a good customer experience, that they had to finish the top and wait 24 hours for it to cure before they could use it. The other problem with laminates is that if you hit right where 2 veneers meet, it can cause some weird chip out or fuzz. It can cause different colors on each side of the piece. So that wasn't my favorite. I liked the black and white melamine, but I was worried about strength. So it was time to collaborate again. I posted a poll on Instagram, and people overwhelmingly chose the black, which is a little bit harder to find than the white, but not impossible. I found a great vendor for it. Now, we have to look at our core values, right? And one of them is strength. We need this to be the strongest router table on the market. And so to test this, we took the Ford F350 dually and put the rear end on 2 router tables, and these are the results. So it's time to finalize this thing, and one of the other core values was it needed to have all the features of a large router table. So I got a couple other great suggestions from that poll. First one was like a duh moment, which was put handles on it. I added a hole for the cord, and then we needed to add a fence. And that was real easy. I just copied the fence from my large router table. It even has the movable sacrificial pieces, has a way to add dust collection, and that was real easy to design. Another thing that a full-size router table has is a starter pin, and that's a critical safety feature that allows you to do edge profiling or flush trimming by setting your piece against a solid pin and then rotating into the bit. Now, the Tamar router jig comes with this 1/4 pin that we designed that allows you to cut circles and attach accessory pieces to cut circles without drilling a hole in your workpiece. And you have a bunch of unused holes, right? Like you only use 4 of these to attach your router. So you can get a 1/4 tap for like $1 to $5, depending on where you go, Harbor Freight to Amazon. And you can tap one of the holes you're not using and put this little pin in there, and you have a starter pin. So now we got a final product, and it's time to figure out manufacturing. And that introduces a whole nother set of problems. One of the things that we had to solve after we went to manufacturing was these dados for the T-track. Now, anybody who's tried to do this with a regular router knows that if you go straight one way and then 90 degrees cut straight the other way, you get a little tear out at the corners. So first few router tables we manufactured, the guys had to come back and hand sand all these corners. So you can see here, what we came up with was a tool path where we actually round that corner. Among other things we had to solve was cutting out the sack fence pieces. How are we gonna get those logos on there? Now with a CNC, when you engrave something, it's very hard to see because it's the exact same color. But with our lasers, we got to use our 180-watt lasers. To create these, we created a jig for the sack fence, which looks like this. And then after that, we need to put together the hardware. My team is really good about assembling hardware packages. They come in these little bags. And those are the little details that you need to worry about. If maybe you're going the other path where you're working with a firm and an outside manufacturer, this would be when you would be designing boxes and how the packaging looks. These are all the details that you need to figure out at this point. So my team then cuts a T-track, assembles the hardware, and it's time to pack it up and get it to you in a safe manner. And that's one of the great things about finalizing this product is now you get to get feedback from your customers. And so far, feedback has been great on this. It's been a fantastic thing. But first, let me show you how it works. Pretty cool, huh? And that's a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to bring a product to market here and some of the stuff we do here at Katz-Moses Tools. One of the things I'm most proud of is that we can bring this to you at a price point that is less than it would cost to buy the materials and hardware and build it yourself on both products, Tamar's router jig and the router table. We worked really, really hard on that. Development time on Tamar's router jig was about 1.5 years. Router table was about 6 months from inception to putting it on the website. And this is the first offering in what we're gonna call Katz-Moses Flat Pack. We've invested a lot in a brand new, really, really fast production CNC, huge dust collector. We've got a wide belt sander in the warehouse we need to put together. And we're gonna bring you really accurate jigs at the lowest price we can, easy to assemble, flat pack to you. You can watch the assembly video of this. We do really in-depth instructions. It's very cool. Like I've always said since the beginning of my journey here on YouTube and with this company is I think woodworking should be accessible to all. It's why we have our charity, the Katz-Moses Woodworkers with Disabilities Fund, and it's why we run our business where we put products together for very affordable prices. I'm very, very proud of that. And if you like this video and you like this behind the scenes look at what we do here, give me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this because I'd like to bring you more content like this. We've got a box joint jig that, oh man, this thing's gonna be so cool. It's gonna do everything that the iBox does, but it's gonna be in a very inexpensive, easy to assemble package, and it's gonna be universal to any table saw. Just wrapping that up. That's why we got the new CNC. Looking forward to bringing you that and a bunch of other stuff. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel, the charity, and everything that we do here. As always, stay safe in the shop. Have a wonderful day.